Howdy, howdy, my fellow gamers, and welcome back to another episode of Storytime with Freak as we dive into part 5 of Neil Shusterman's Thunderhead, Circumstances Beyond. We're almost done with the book. I mean, we still got, I'd say, a good third left, but we're making it there. So without further ado, as you guys remember, Seth Goddard is back, and they killed Rowan's friend, Tiger, and that's where we left off. So, there's a vast difference between the things I can do and the things I choose to do. I can remove and raise any unwanted fetus in vitro and then place it with the perfect loving family, thereby ending the argument between right of choice and sanctity of life. I could balance the chemicals that once led to clinical depression, suicidal ideation, delusional thinking, and every form of mental illness, thereby creating a population that is not only physically healthy, but emotionally and psychologically healthy as well. I can, through a person's individual network of nanites, upload memories daily, so should that person suffer brain damage, their memories can be layered into fresh brain tissue. I can even catch the memories of splatters on the way down, so that they can remember the most of the fall, which, after all, is why they chose to splat in the first place. But there are some things that I simply will not do. However, the Scythedom is not bound by my laws, or my sense of ethical propriety, which means that I must endure any abomination that afflicts upon the world, including the awful restoration of a dangerous scythe who is better off removed from the surface. The Thunderhead. Chapter 30, Erasable Glass Chicken. The great library of Alexandria remained quiet as a crypt in the midnight hours, so no one but Manira and the blade guards who stood at the entrance knew about the mysterious visitor who came during her shift. The guards did not care enough to ask questions, so Scythe Faraday was able to do his research in as much secrecy as was possible in a public institution. He would pore over the volumes in the Hall of Founders, but would not tell Manira what he was looking for. She did not ask after the first day, although she did, on occasionally, subtly probe. If you're looking for words of wisdom to ponder, you might try Scythe King, she had suggested one night. Scythe Cleopatra wrote a lot about the early conclaves and the personalities of the first Scythes in her journals, she offered on another night. Then one night she mentioned Scythe Powhatan. He had a penchant for travel and geography, she said. Apparently that hit the spot, because Faraday began to take a keen interest in the man's work. After a few weeks of library visitations, he officially took Manira under his wing. I shall need an assistant in this endeavor, he told her. It is my hope that you would be interested in this position. Although Manira's heart leapt, she did not let it show. Instead, she feigned ambivalence. I would need to take a leave of absence from my studies, and were we to leave here, I would have to resign from my job at the library, she told him. Let me think about it. Then the following day, she accepted the position. She withdrew from her classes, but stayed on at the library because Scythe Faraday needed her there. Only now that their working relationship was official did he leak what he was looking for. It's a place, he told her. It has been lost to antiquity, but I do believe it existed, and that we could find it. Atlantis, she suggested. Camelot? Disneyland? Las Vegas? Nothing so fanciful, he said, but then reconsidered. Or perhaps more fanciful. It depends on how you look at it. It depends on what we actually find. He hesitated before telling her, actually looking a bit sheepish. We're looking for the land of Nod. It made her laugh out loud. He might as well have said that they were looking for Middle Earth, or the man in the moon. It's a fiction, she told him, and not even a very good one. She knew the nursery rhyme. Everyone did. It was a simplistic metaphor for life and death, an introduction for small children to concepts that they would eventually need to grasp. Yes, he agreed, but did you know that the rhyme did not exist in the age of mortality? She opened her mouth to refute the claim, but stopped herself. Most childhood rhymes came out of the mortal medieval era. She had never researched them, but others had. Scythe Faraday was thorough, however. If he said it did not exist when humankind was mortal, she had to believe him, in spite of her instinct to scoff. The rhyme did not evolve the way others do, Faraday protested. I believe it was intentionally planted. Manira could only shake her head. To what purpose? That, Scythe Faraday said, is what I intend to find out. Manira's tenure as Faraday's assistant began in doubt, but she put that doubt aside, suspending judgment so that she could do her job. Faraday was not overly demanding. He was not demeaning. He never treated her like an underling, giving her assignments that were beneath her. Instead, the tasks he set for her were worthy of her skills as a research librarian. I need you to dig into the back of brain and recreate the moments of all the early scythes, places where they were gathered, spots that they traveled to repeatedly. What we're looking for are holes in the record, periods of time where there is no accounting for where they were. Digging around the Thunderhead's massive digital backbrain for ancient information was a juicy challenge. She hadn't had the need to access the backbrain since her apprenticeship, but she knew her way around it. Still, she could have written a dissertation on the skills she learned in the process of this particular research. It was, however, a dissertation that no one would hear because it was done with utmost secrecy. Yet, in spite of all her forensic research, she did not produce anything they could use. There was no evidence to suggest that the founding sites ever gathered in the same place. Faraday was neither discouraged or deterred. Instead, he gave her a new assignment: create digital versions of each of the early Scythe's first journals, he told her. Then run the files through the Scythedom's best decryption software and see if it yields any coded messages. The software was slow, at least compared to the Thunderhead, which could have done all the calculations in a matter of seconds. The Scythedom software was crunching for days. Finally, it began to produce data. But the things it vomited forth were absurd. Things like profound midnight green cow and irascible glass chicken. Does any of this make sense to you? She asked Faraday. He shook his head sadly. I do not believe the founding Scythes were so obtuse as to create a complex code and then reward the decoder with nonsensical riddling. We already have the riddle of the rhyme. A code would have been more straightforward. When the computer spat out umbrella eggplant victory flight, they admitted yet another failure. The harder you scrutinize randomness, Faraday declared, the more coincidence seems like design. But the word flight caught in Manira's mind. Yes, it was a random, but it reminded sometimes randomness led to moments of remarkable serendipity and earth-shattering discoveries. The library's map room did not have any actual maps. Instead, in its center revolved a holographic Earth. With a few swipes, taps, and pinches of the control screen, any portion of the globe can enlarge for study. Any era back to time of Pangea could be depicted. Manira brought Scythe Faraday to the map room as soon as he arrived the next evening, but did not tell him why. Humor me, she told him. Once more, he expressed that odd combination of exasperation and infinite patience. As he followed her to the map room, she tapped the controls and the globe changed. Now it appeared to be a holographic ball of black yarn, 10 feet in diameter. What am I looking at? Asked Faraday. Flight paths, she told him. The past 50 years of air travel, each flight represented by a line 1 micron thick. She started the world revolving. Tell me what you see. Faraday threw her a good-natured glare, clearly a bit put off that she was behaving like the mentor, but he played along. Flights are more dense around major population centers, he said. What else? He took the controls and shifted the globe to show the poles, where small spots of white showed through like a child's crayon drawing. Transcontinental air traffic is still fairly dense over the North Pole, but flights are a bit sparser over Antarctica, even with so many settled regions there. Keep looking, Manira said. He returned the globe to its normal incline, and set it revolving a bit faster. Finally, he stopped it over the Pacific Ocean. There, he said. A patch of blue. Bingo, said Manira. She removed the flight paths and enlarged the small spot of ocean. No plane has flown over this patch of the Pacific in the 50 years I've been studying. I would bet no planes crossed that airspace since the Scythedom was founded. The islands of Micronesia were to the west of the spot, Hawaii to the east, but the spot itself was just empty sea. Interesting, said Scythe Faraday. A blind spot. And if it is, Manira said, it's the largest one in the world, and we're the only ones who know about it. And that is the end of Chapter 30. I appreciate you all watching today's episode. Feel free to check out the links down below. Join the Discord. Follow on Twitter for updates. Check out the Twitch. And I pose you guys with this question today. If you all are gamers, I mean, this is the Gamers of the Roundtable, what is your favorite video game of all time? I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Stay freaky.